Well, as many as 500 million animals have died so far in the bushfires, and there's been a lot of concern about the impact on wildlife in general. Images of burnt kangaroos and koalas have spurred emotional reactions from people around the world, but the impact to our ecosystem could be even greater. Professor Mike Lee specialises in evolutionary biology at Flinders University and the South Australian Museum. He says human life depends on invertebrates that are likely to have been hard hit by the fires.
To put it bluntly, without insects and other invertebrates, humans wouldn't be alive today. Insects not only pollinate plants, but they're fundamental parts of the food web that keeps our planet's ecosystems in order. And also, they're sort of nature's garbage disposers. They clean up the world, they decompose dead material, and they recycle nutrients. I mean, without insects and other decomposing invertebrates, every single tree or every single animal that died, humans would have to dispose of. And quite obviously, we can't do that.
So what does that mean for what's happening right now? What species are at risk because of the bushfires?
Yes, well, there's been a lot of focus on the cute, cuddly, furry and feathered things. But one thing that I think is also very important is the fact that these bushfires are killing billions and billions of insects and other invertebrates. Someone has estimated that, there's 1 million beetles per square hectare in some of the lands that are being burnt. And so if 20 hectares get burnt, and a lot more than 20 hectares has been burnt, that's equivalent to the entire population of Australia in beetles that's destroyed. So that's a tremendous toll.
And what about this concept of hidden extinctions? Might there be some species that haven't really been discovered yet that could be wiped out before we even know them?
Yes, one of the great things about being a biologist is the fact that we know so little about biodiversity. As an example, if you go into a reasonably well-known patch of rainforest and you can collect all the insects in a particular tree and you put them out on a table and look at them, chances are that most of them won't have scientific names yet. They won't be known to science. So there is no doubt that there'll be lots of very rare, very endangered, very special species that are found in tiny little patches of rainforest, or tiny little patches of wet sclerophyll forest that have been completely wiped out by these bushfires. And they've been wiped out before scientists even had a chance to describe them.
So how concerning is the overall effect of all of this?
I think it should be very concerning. One sort of rebuttal to this viewpoint might be that, okay, there's just so many species of insects out there, it doesn't matter if we lose a few. But I think that viewpoint is a little bit complacent. The analogy is if you're on an aeroplane and you're looking out the window and you see a rivet pop out the wing. If only one rivet pops out, you might say, oh, that's fine, there's plenty of other rivets sort of holding the wing together. But at what point, if another rivet pops out, though, then you might start to get worried. And if 3 or 4 pop out, then you really, really start to panic. And insects are sort of like that. There's many millions of them holding the ecosystem together. And if you lose 1 or 2, it might not be that concerning. But if you lose many more and you keep losing them, then the analogy is it's like you're on a plane and the rivets are falling off your wing. At some point, you have to be very concerned. And I think humanity is at the point where we should be very concerned, given how many species that are going, both vertebrates and invertebrates.
So to continue that analogy, how long before we crash, if you like? How long before we might notice the extinction effect of some of this?
Well, we've already noticed very, very big extinction effects for the cute, furry, big animals, the mammals and the birds. I mean, Australia has the worst extinction record for mammals since European occupation, for instance, of any continent. But even for insects, we are starting to notice them. I mean, there was a study a few years ago which looked at all the scientific literature that had looked at insect diversity and distribution and abundance in the world. And if you look at, and it looked at hundreds and hundreds of scientific studies that counted insects and measured their diversity. And there was a very, very strong trend that diversity and that abundance was going down very, very sharply due to things like agriculture and land clearing and stuff like that. And that's not surprising. I mean, those things were affecting the big animals, so of course they should also be affecting the little animals. And those little animals should actually be affected more severely because they're much smaller, they're found in much smaller regions, and they probably can't, move as fast or as far to get away.
You've gone so far as to compare this situation perhaps to the demise of the dinosaurs.
Yes. One of the interesting things about the dinosaur extinctions is that they went extinct in virtually a geological eye blink. They went extinct 66 million years ago when a big meteorite hit the Earth. And one of the reasons they went extinct was because this meteorite threw up a giant fireball, which sort of put the world under global ember attack. And it's been estimated that probably half the world's forests went up in smoke at that time. And that massive sort of fireball, along with a nuclear winter and a whole bunch of other stresses, killed a whole lot of large vertebrate animals that we know about, as well as a whole bunch of invertebrate animals.
It's a dangerous time.
It is. It's very dangerous and very concerning.
Professor Mike Lee, specialist in evolutionary biology at Flinders University and the South Australian Museum.